sort of life pretty much changed
Yeah.
and you're on this path now. What was it like trying to tell your friends and family or the people that are closest to you that, guys, this is what I want to do now?
Oh my God.
This is my ideas. Like, what do you think? Or are you going to support me? How was that conversation? Because I know that's always the hardest bit.
I thought I was crazy.
Really?
Definitely thought I was crazy. I was working at the time. I had such a good job, right? A job that could fly me from continent to continent and pay for my trips and stay at 5-star hotels and food and everything was free. And they're like, are you crazy? Because my idea was to go into entrepreneurship as a part-timer, right? And then once the money start coming in and flowing in, resign from my job and then, do it full time. But it didn't happen as I was hoping. So I ended up losing my job 6 months later. But my friends thought I was crazy. One of my friends even said, I don't know, I don't think I'll be able to talk you out of it because you're stubborn as hell.
Headstrong.
And I was like, I know I can do it. I know it might not be easy at first, but I can do it. My parents on the other side, oh my goodness.
Oy.
I didn't tell my parents up until maybe 6 months later.
Oh, okay.
Even when I lost my job, my dad didn't know. I was lying to my dad. Sorry, daddy. I was lying to him. He would call us like, oh, where are you this time? I'm like, no, I mean, there's no trips these days, daddy. Oh, why? I'm like, oh, I don't know. They just haven't scheduled anything. I mean, I'm just working from home and the office in Reading. And then one day he called me. He was like, you've not been traveling for a while now. What's been happening? I was like, okay, daddy, I lost my job a couple of months ago. Wow, what are you doing now? And I started talking to him about this entrepreneurship. He's like, this is not right. I didn't send you to Europe to do that. I'm like, daddy, I'm going to make it. No, you will not. Daddy, I'm going to be the first millionaire in the Malingos family. No, you will not. I don't want to talk to you anymore. So that was the conversation. They didn't support me at first. Honestly, even my mom. I guess when I'm thinking about it now, I guess it was more them fearing about me losing track of life. I don't know. Maybe fearing that I would not be able to
It's
come
weird.
out of it. Yeah.
Because I think this is where like our cultures overlap, and maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it's a generation thing.
Yeah.
But obviously one of the posts where we actually first started talking was I put something in a group and I was like, look, I go, my mates don't understand what I'm doing. My parents don't understand what I'm doing. Like this property game and probably just business as a whole is such a lonely place.
It is.
Who do you talk to? And then the only people you end up really connecting with and pushing you are the people in property.
Yeah.
But even to this day, I don't know what it's like for yourself, but like parents, unless you're making like 10,000 a week in your first week, like they're like, what are you doing? Like, and part of it is a love and care for you because they don't want to see you struggle.
True.
But then part of it is because, and this is not representing the whole generation, but a lot of the generation was so traditional in go to work, get a job, get married, X number of kids, and that's your life for until you're 60, 65, retire, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there's got our generation that coming through going, Dad, I want to be a millionaire. And he's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. It's the same with me as well. I mean, sometimes I will call my dad or my mom. It's like, Mom, can you help out? It's like, oh, I thought you were an entrepreneur. They sort of mock you. But I guess it's the way society has conditioned them to be. Yeah. And it's something they would not understand. And I keep telling them, I say, just have faith in me. Yeah. If you really do love me, and I know you do, have faith in me. And my mom, she's now, whenever she sees me posting stuff, she's like, can you send me that? I'm going to post it as well. And they're not being supportive. Yeah. It's only now they're being supportive. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because their resistance actually ends up weighing you down quite a lot. So I don't know about your, like, obviously your situation, but when your parents aren't fully behind you or they're doubting you, then all of a sudden you start doubting yourself. Can I do it? Are they right? And then as soon as they get behind you, then there's literally feels like there's nothing.
That's very true.
There's nothing that stops you.
I remember when I came back from Costa Rica last year and I went to launch the network marketing company I'm involved in, and we made a stop in Madrid. So I called my dad, and I was like, because he follows me on social media. Like I see you, Daddy. I see him. And, you know, as soon as I land and he texts me, he's like, oh, you in Madrid now? I'm like, oh, so he's spying on me now. So I called him. He was like, so how was it? I was like, yeah, it was good, Daddy. And, you know, I really liked it. For the first time, I had a relief when my daddy said, I'm fully behind you.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, my goodness. I remember I was with my business partners and we're walking out and, you know, trying to find a place to sit down. I just stopped with my suitcase and, you know, tears streaming down my eye, my face. And then I'm like, really, Daddy? It's like, I know you can. I know you're capable of doing it. You're just like me. You're the version of myself. When you say that, I'm like, right, Mr. Malingo, I'm going to show it to you. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And now when I have my down moments, I call my dad, you know. And when my dad calls me, he knows that I'm not pick up. He knows I'm working. When I pick up, he says, what did you pick up? You know, in a meeting? It's like, no, Daddy, I had a 5 minute. Okay. I just wanted to say hi, bye. So it's beautiful to have them behind you and support you. Yeah.
Nah, I love that. It's like I said, once they get behind you wholeheartedly, it's different.
Yeah.
But what's it like, sort of like culturally, like it culturally? I can't even get the word out. Culturally, in terms of like having female entrepreneurs. Do you have many of them in your family? Is it something that's sort of like doesn't really happen, or is it very traditional in terms of like, you know, women go to work, get married, settle down, have kids? What's it like in sort of like culture?
It's very rare. I right now, it's a good question because now you're getting me thinking. I'm looking at my dad's family side and my side. We have a lot of strong women, but they had to do what society had. I had their parent condition them to be for them to become those women of today. Yeah. And part of it is, you know, go to school, go to uni, get married, have kids, buy a house, have a mortgage. And they're doing well. I mean, in my family, both sides, I have a lot of pilots, engineers, doctors, and, you know, living in big houses. They're doing pretty well. I guess I am the first one, if I'm not mistaken myself. Yeah. And it's at first, it's very difficult because people look at you and like, how could you? Really? Yeah. You know, I remember I was talking to my cousin back in Glasgow and she's like, you sure you want to do it? I'm like, yes. What about your dad? What are they saying? I don't think, especially in the Congolese community, I have not come across, I know there are a lot of Congolese women out there like myself or even more than what I do. I know it, but I've not really met them or heard the story or speaking to them. But I know it's a very rare thing at this point. That's just my own observation. Maybe I'm living in my own bubble, but I know what it's like to be a Congolese African woman growing up in a family where you're being dictated. Your life is dictated actually to you and you have to do what you've been told. And me being me now, I still have a lot of uncles that don't talk to me, so I'm cool with that.
You're just unstoppable now, isn't it?
Yeah, no one is stopping me. No, not at all.
Especially when you get like your dad's support behind you as well. And sometimes it's a little bit of parents are there to test how serious you are. Yeah. And he might have pressed you, and if you turned around and said, "Oh, actually, Dad, you're right," and then you just crumbled, then you would have just gone back to your job. But the fact that you persisted to say, "Dad, this is what I want to do. I want to do it," and then he's like, "You know what? I can see it. I want to do it." Yeah. And sometimes it's just making those small little progresses that you can show and say, "Look, this is the path that I'm going down. This is what I'm doing," and then just keeping them involved in it. It does make a huge difference.